Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into the first act of Shakespeare's absolute most famous play, Romeo and Juliet. But listen, we're not just going to look at this as some dusty piece of old literature. Nope. Instead, we're going to break it down as an absolute masterclass in setting up a ticking time bomb.
You know what's really wild about how Shakespeare kicks off this masterpiece? He completely spoils his own ending right out of the gate. Before we even meet a single character, the chorus just steps right out and tells us exactly how the whole shebang's gonna end.
And this perfectly illustrates our core hook for the whole play. The text literally reads, "From forth the fatal loins of these two foes, a pair of star-crossed lovers take their life." Bam! We know from the very first second that these kids are totally doomed. And when you look closely at the narrative structure, you can really see why this is just pure genius. It makes every single subsequent decision they make feel incredibly heavy and honestly, utterly suspenseful.
Section 1. Verona's Ancient Grudge, a city on the brink.
Before our star-crossed lovers even step into the frame, we immediately see the absolute absurdity of this ancient grudge. I mean, the play doesn't start with kings or generals, right? It starts with servants. A massive, bloody brawl is sparked by a Capulet servant simply biting his thumb at a Montague rival. Seriously, it's the Elizabethan equivalent of flipping someone off in traffic.
So, the really crucial point to grasp here is how rapidly the violence escalates, showing us just how much of a powder keg Verona has actually become. Step 1. The servants trade insults. Step 2. The peace-loving Benvolio tries to break it up. Then Step 3. The fiery Tybalt arrives, literally stating he hates the word peace as much as he hates hell. And finally, Step 4, a full-blown street riot erupts, dragging even the elderly lords of the houses into the fray with their swords. It escalates like wildfire.
Well, all this sheer chaos brings the absolute highest authority in the land, Prince Aeschylus, right into the blood-stained streets. He is completely out of patience with these three civil brawls, and he steps in to lay down a terrifying new law.
Okay, let's really dive into the stakes here. The prince decrees, "If ever you disturb our streets again, your lives shall pay the forfeit of the peace." Listen, this isn't just a slap on the wrist. This decree means that if Romeo or Juliet's families fight again, the punishment is execution. This single line sets the fatal perimeter for our lovers before they've even met. The trap is officially armed.
Section 2. Meet the star-crossed teens. Love versus apathy.
So, with the deadly trap set, it's time to introduce the naive protagonists who are about to wander right into it. Let's compare where our teenagers are mentally at the start of the play. Romeo? Well, he is completely swallowed by dramatic teenage melancholy. He's locking himself in his room, making an artificial night, weeping and sighing because a completely different girl, Rosaline, doesn't love him back. Juliet, on the other hand, is barely 14. She is completely obedient, grounded, and entirely indifferent to her mother's sudden suggestion that she should marry the wealthy nobleman, Paris.
You can literally see this contrast woven right into their dialogue. On one side, we have Romeo's heavy sighing about brawling love and loving hate, completely wrapped up in his own head, and on the other, we get Juliet's straightforward, youthful dialogue, which perfectly counterbalances the chaotic, rambling stories of her nurse.
It all boils down to their exact words. Romeo says he's out of her favor where I am in love. Meanwhile, Juliet says of marriage, "It is an honor that I dream not of." What you should really take away from this is that we have two kids moving in completely opposite emotional directions. One is desperately seeking romance, the other doesn't care for it at all, and they are totally unaware they are about to collide.
Section 3. Gate crashing and Queen Mab. The tension builds.
All right, the pace really starts to accelerate now as Romeo and his friends decide to gate crash the Capulets' massive evening feast. And this leads to one of the wildest speeches in all of literature. Right before they enter enemy territory, Romeo says he had a dream that fills him with dread. To mock him, his volatile best friend Mercutio spins a dizzying, completely manic monologue about Queen Mab, the fairy's midwife who brings dreams to sleeping men.
When you actually list out these tiny, bizarre details, like a chariot made of an empty hazelnut, spokes made of spider legs, a cover of grasshopper wings, and colors of moonshine, it really highlights how Mercutio's idle brain is just frantically spinning out of control. It's a breathtaking, fast-paced distraction right before the ultimate tragedy strikes.
But, despite Mercutio's joking and rambling, this quote confirms that Romeo simply cannot shake his premonition.
He says, "I fear too early, for my mind misgives some consequence yet hanging in the stars, by some vile forfeit of untimely death." The dramatic irony here is incredibly thick. He literally feels a creeping dread that attending this party will cost him his life. And as we know from the prologue, he is absolutely right.
Section 4. The Fatal First Kiss. Colliding Worlds at the Capulet Feast.
And now we arrive at the catalyst, the Capulet party, the exact moment where these colliding worlds finally crash into one another. What makes this scene a true masterclass in tension is how Shakespeare positions the dialogue. He places Romeo's instant, spellbound love for Juliet, saying she doth teach the torches to burn bright, right next to Tybalt's violent, murderous rage upon discovering a Montague in his house. Tybalt literally says, "To strike him dead I hold it not a sin." Think about that. Love and death are standing in the exact same room, looking at the exact same boy.
And yet, completely ignoring the immense danger swirling around them, Romeo and Juliet meet. They speak in this beautiful shared sonnet, essentially flirting through a religious metaphor. He's the pilgrim, she's the saint. They seamlessly finish each other's rhymes right up until their fatal first kiss.
It's a gorgeous, transcendent moment on the page, but what happens when the masks actually come off? The reality of Verona's ancient grudge and that terrifying death penalty established by the prince must finally catch up with them.
Through their separate, totally panicked conversations with the nurse shortly after the kiss, the devastating truth drops like an anvil. Romeo says, "Oh dear Count, my life is my foe's debt." And Juliet echoes that exact heartbreak. "My only love sprung from my only hate." They have fallen entirely, hopelessly in love with the exact person they are sworn by blood to destroy. And that brings us to the very end of Act 1. The anatomical structure of this tragedy is fully complete. The feud is established, the death penalty is looming, the oblivious teens have fallen in love, and the angry cousin is out for blood, leaving us with this massive, looming question that drives the rest of this immortal tragedy. The lines are drawn and the trap is set. Can love survive in a house of hate? Thank you for exploring this amazing text with me, and I'll leave you to ponder that as you reflect on the absolute genius of this setup.